Hey, I'm Jillian. I think about spanking, I write about spanking, and now, apparently, I make videos about spanking. I am really putting all of those fancy degrees to good use, huh? This video is all about my best tips, tricks, and advice for finding your Spanko soulmate. Spanking fetishists email me all the time to ask, how can I find a partner who shares this part of my life? As you guys know, being a spanking fetishist is so much more than just a preference or an experimental phase. It's an innate, unchosen, and lifelong aspect of our identities, and it's really damn important. For many members of our community, finding a fellow fetishist to shack up with is simply non-negotiable. But it's hard. It's not like spankos are out there walking around wearing t-shirts that say, I'm a spanking fetishist. This is my sorority, Omega Tau Kappa. Finding a partner is hard for anyone. I like the way Shakespeare put it in The Comedy of Errors. I to the world am like a drop of water that in the ocean seeks another drop. Everyone can relate to the struggle to find a partner, but the reality is it can be even harder for us. There just aren't that many of us out there. We are a tiny subculture. And to make matters worse, many of the spanking fetishists who do exist are terrified to acknowledge their identities to even themselves, let alone to other people. So what is a lonely pervert supposed to do? How are we spanking-obsessed drops of water supposed to find our other drops in a sex-obsessed ocean? Disclaimer, this advice is mostly for spanking fetishists since that's what I am and what I know. But I really hope that some of these tips might be useful for people with other paraphilias also. And for those of you who are already in relationships with sex-oriented or vanilla people, stay tuned. Another video specifically for you guys is coming up soon.
I asked for a smack, not a snack.
That's coming soon. But for now, this video is all about you single spankos. I managed to find another spanking fetishist out there in the ocean, and I have faith that you can too. Tip 1, be honest with yourself. This step needs to happen before anything else. If you haven't done the work to be fiercely honest with yourself about who you are and what you want and need, you won't be able to find the person who can give that to you. You need to ask yourself a few questions and be prepared for the possibility that some of the answers may surprise you. Are you really just a top, or is there a part of you that needs to switch sometimes? Are you really looking for a 24/7 disciplinary dynamic, or is that just a fantasy? How does sex factor into your fetish? If it even factors in at all, which maybe it doesn't. This is also a good time to think about what kind of relationship model you need. Ethical non-monogamy is very, very common in fetish communities. I'm polyamorous myself. The fact that our community is so warm and welcoming to non-traditional relationship dynamics is really great. But it also runs the risk that some innately monogamous people who haven't done the work to acknowledge that to themselves could risk getting really hurt by just going with the flow and ending up in a relationship dynamic that is really hurtful and unhealthy for them. Figure out what you want so you don't waste your time on someone who can't give it to you. Tip 2, stop lurking. You guys know what lurking is. It's when you spend days and years silently soaking up every word on spanking websites without ever making a profile or introducing yourself. Lurking is safe. De-lurking is scary. The internet is absolutely wonderful. I'm inside your computer or your phone right now. But if you want to meet a real human person, you're going to have to get offline eventually. And the first step is to de-lurk. It's time. Believe it or not, you can actually de-lurk on vanilla websites too. Just add OTK or HOH or FLR to your profile and See if anyone gets the code. You never know. I mean, you could also list a certain spanking book you all definitely know and love and gave 5 stars to on Amazon.com among your favorite books and see if anyone picks up on that hint. I'm just saying. My point is, de-lurking isn't just for spanking websites. You can de-lurk on Tinder too. Tip 3, don't get discouraged. You've de-lurked, congratulations. Maybe that means you're having the fantasy spanking conversations you've always dreamed about with other people. Hopefully. But you know what they say about just hoping for something. Wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first. Just because you've de-lurked, it doesn't mean you're immediately going to find those fantasy conversations you're looking for. My dom tells me that he messaged hundreds of women before he met his first submissive, and hundreds more before he met me. And even though his messages were always friendly and respectful, sometimes weeks would pass without a single response. You gotta hang in there, soldier. This isn't going to happen overnight. Tip 4, get ready to travel. Like I said, there just aren't that many of us out there. And when you account for things like age, personality, common interests, mutual attraction, and then add the fetish factor in on top of that, well, the math just doesn't look good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Your Spanko soulmate is probably not in your hometown. That person might not even be in your country. So if there's any way you possibly can, start saving money now. Get ready for some travel expenses. You're going to need them. This is an extreme example, but I live in Kenya. My dom lives in England. We only met in person for the first time because he dipped into his savings and flew to Norway to say hi to me. It was a huge financial gamble, but he would be the first to tell you it was worth it. Tip 5, keep your head on your shoulders. I talk a lot about something I call the false intimacy of a shared fetish. When we've had this huge, scary secret for so much of our lives, finally meeting another person who shares that secret and its associated insecurities can be really overwhelming. A lot of spankos fall head over heels for the first other fetishist they meet in person. I know I sure did. So keep your head on your shoulders, okay? The false intimacy of a shared fetish is real, but you want your relationship to work in vanilla ways too. The first other spanko you meet could be the perfect person for you, but the odds are they won't be. Just keep that in mind. Also remember, there are scammers out there who specifically prey on sexual minorities. They know that we are, in many cases, very lonely and vulnerable, and they take advantage of that. They learn our language, they trigger our kinks, and then they swoop in for the kill. Blackmail is a really common tactic. They get a person to reveal his or her real name and then threaten to out them to friends and family if they don't pay up. Nothing upsets me more than people who prey on the most vulnerable members of our community. So please be safe out there, okay? Tip 6. Let go of some things that don't matter. Look, you're searching for a tiny drop in a huge ocean. You gotta let go of some things that don't matter. Maybe it's okay if she's a Sagittarius. Maybe it's okay if he likes Nickelback. Tip 7, but hold on tight to the things that do matter. If you have critical and non-negotiable religious, political, or moral values, figure out what those things are and hold on tight to them. Don't compromise. You need this relationship to work in vanilla ways first and foremost. My dom is a cat person. That's just non-negotiable. Tip 8. Be prepared for the possibility that your fetish might evolve. At the beginning of this video, I put a lot of emphasis on the importance of knowing yourself and knowing your fetish so you can find the person who is compatible with it. That's all true and very important. But it's also worth knowing that in disciplinary dynamics or other spanking relationships, it's possible your fetish might evolve a little. For example, maybe you think DDLG dynamics aren't your cup of tea, but I've known people who have changed their minds about that. I confess nothing. Tip 9. Explore the kink tree, but don't forget, we're our own branch. The BDSM community is big and has a lot of different subcultures. So when spanking fetishists have trouble finding a partner from our own branch, it's tempting to look elsewhere on the tree. This can be a really successful option, and I definitely don't discourage it. But it's important to remember, while we absolutely are connected to other members of the kink and fetish communities, we are our own unique subculture. We have our own distinct language, trigger words, play style, and interests. I often remember a story that a friend of mine told me. She's a spanking fetishist, but was dating a guy from the broader BDSM community at the time. And I remember she was feeling frustrated and looked at me and said, "I just need a real spanko spanking." Her boyfriend was happy to spank her, of course, but his play style was just different. So manage expectations, okay? If you start dating someone from another part of the BDSM community, that's awesome and can be really successful, but don't go into the relationship expecting them to immediately understand everything in the same innate, fundamental way that other spankos do. You might have to do a little bit of explaining at first and be patient, and that's okay. The right person is worth the effort. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope these tips are useful. If some advice from this video makes it possible for you to meet your spanko soulmate, my matchmaking fee is one wedding invitation. See you there.